Hey cats, what's happening? Welcome to the man cave. It's been pretty cold last couple days. At night it's getting way down in the low teens. So you can kind of see my breath here in the man cave today. But I'm comfortable. I'm dressed for it. Actually, it's not so cold in here as it is outside. It's a sunny day, but it's cold. It's chilling cold. Anyway, if I had been up at the biker bar today and you walked in to greet me and said, "Hey Itchy, did you ride?" I'd have to say, "Yep." Yeah, I sure did. I took the mini hog out and got the mail today, for all it's worth. You know, I could walk down and get the mail, but it's such a blast to be able to ride on a day like today. I mean, it was windburn cold, but it sure is fun, and that thing scoots right along. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, I wanted to talk today about, I guess for lack of better terms, church a little bit. Bikers and church. I haven't been going to church for a long time, a few years now. Yeah, with V getting sick and everything, it's kind of hard to get up in the morning and get out and head off to church. And I know our church also has some evening services too, but still, it's quite a drive for us to get to church from here. And sometimes it's just easier to stay home and do what you have to do at home. But I remember back, when I was in my 20s, okay, and my first encounter with a 1% motorcycle club, I somehow, just being that I was riding and being in the culture and everything, I met these guys that were in a 1% club called Born Free. And the president of the club, his name was Preacher. Or that was his nickname. That wasn't his real name, but we called him Preacher. A very kind soul for a president of an outlaw club. You know, he was very kind, and I was kind of just relieved that he gladly took me into his club without any hesitation, without any problem. He eagerly accepted me in there. Now, he didn't have a very big club. There wasn't a whole lot of guys in there, just a handful of members. And I was never a patched member, but they wanted me to join the club and offered me to ride with them. And I don't know what my reasons were at the time, but it just wasn't something that I wanted to commit to, you know. So time went on, I just kind of fell away from them and didn't ride much with them. It was just recently that I learned that the Preacher passed away like 12 years ago. And it kind of brought a little bit of sadness to my heart because I knew the guy, you know, and just kind of wondered what happened to him, and did a little online search thinking, you know, well, maybe there's still some information about the club or something on there that I can look at, and right away his obituary came up. So my deepest condolences to that family. I used to go to this other church. It was actually a pretty big church. It got to be real big. But the preacher there used to be in a 1% motorcycle club. Way back in the day, he was just a hardcore member, and during the time that he was in the club, really experienced some hardcore 1% activities. Now, I'm not going to go into any details, and I'm not going to tell his whole story, but the guy was definitely living that 1%er lifestyle. As time came, he met a woman who turned his life around. He was born again and found Jesus. And from there, he went right into being a preacher, right into the ministry. Well, when he started his church, most of the members there were full-patched members of different clubs, and not so much the club that he bailed out of, per se. But as he told me the story, he always had a fear of the club that he left because, like I've told you, these 1% club, the hardcore 1% clubs, they kind of have this idea that once you're a member, you're always a member. You don't ever get out. You make a lifetime commitment. It's like the Marine Corps, once a Marine, always a Marine. And some of these clubs kind of take on that same ideal that once you're a member, you're always going to be a member. There's no way out. You're always one of the brothers, and you owe that to the club. Well, he was worried about that. And in fact, to the point where he said he slept with a gun under his pillow, 45 under his pillow, just because he felt insecure that they weren't happy with him leaving the club, and he thought there was going to be retaliation. Well, anyway, he's up there preaching one day. Now, he was a good preacher, and I'll tell you why, because, he came from the street, and when he talked to you, when he was up there preaching, it was like he was talking to me personally. There was probably 150 other people sitting there. I felt like he was looking right at me, talking right to me, because everything he talked about seriously hit home with me. I could definitely relate to what he talked on my level. He wasn't one of these preachers that went all about these and thous and things you couldn't understand and just, put you to sleep. No, he was one of the preachers that would keep you really engaged on the edge of your seat listening to his preaching. I really learned to love the guy. But anyway, the one story that sticks out in my head, he said he was up there preaching one day, and that was before I went to his church. He was up in front of the church preaching, and the doors kicked open. And it was one of the 1% outlaws from the club that he had left. Great big burly guy, nasty looking, grizzly, tattooed, full sleeved, the whole thing. And the guy stood there for a minute and came walking right up the middle of the aisle with his cut on, his club colors. And the preacher, he just quit preaching. The church went dead silent. All the heads turned. And this big old biker just walked all the way up to the front of the church and stood there. You could have heard a pin drop. And he said, "You know what? They told me you was a preacher, but I didn't believe it." He says, "I had to come see it with my own eyes." He shook his head and he turned around and he walked out. Well, the preacher was almost shaking in his boots because he thought he was going to be taken out right then and there in front of the whole congregation, but that didn't happen. And that was the last he ever heard of that club. I don't know. Something happened and they left him alone after that. They never bothered him, but he preached in the church for a long, long time and just recently retired and no longer does that ministry. Now, a question I would have for you, and it because I experienced it. When I went to church, I wore my biker gear. I rode the bike to church sometimes, and I had my wallet chain hanging. I had my patches on my jacket, And I went in and you know, as the church grew, you saw less and less of the hardcore bikers that originally attended his services, and it was more just community people that were there because they loved him so much. And the church grew, I mean, where there was like 500 people there in one service. But I would go and I would wear all my biker stuff, and I'd kind of sit in the back because, you know, I didn't want to make a big scene or anything. I felt like I really stuck out in the crowd. And almost made me feel a little uncomfortable sometimes being there like that. But that was who I was. That's who I am. And I wasn't going to try to, you know, wear a suit and tie and pretend that I was somebody different. Nonetheless, I was pretty well accepted by everybody there, and very kind and appreciative, and always felt very, very loved. But like I said, we haven't gone for quite a while now, and I don't know. I don't miss going to church. I miss listening to the preacher. He was a good pastor. He was a good source of soul cleansing information. You know, I mean, there was a lot of times when I would go. And I just couldn't help it. He would be talking, and everything would hit home to me so hard it would bring tears to my eyes. And that's always good stuff, because that means something's hitting, you know, where it has to. That means it's hitting home really hard. Well, anyway, God bless all you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, or had a wonderful weekend. I guess the weekend's almost over now. But if you haven't yet, give my video a thumbs up and please subscribe. And until next time, cats, ride hard and die free.